Cheers, živjeli, na zdravje. So I know that people are planning trips to the Balkans. I've been getting a lot of DMs for travel advice because I, Wando, if you didn't know, am based here in the Balkans myself, specifically Belgrade, Serbia, and I travel a lot around the Balkans. So I thought I would make a video answering some questions that I get in my DMs. And specifically, I wanted to talk about my 4 favorite capital cities in the Balkans. If you're considering them for traveling, trying to figure out which one you want to go to, maybe which one you want to fly into, spend more time in, things like that. I have links in the description, by the way, for where I find the best flights, car rental deals, and accommodations. And so, of course, this video is based on my personal experience, which is affecting my opinions, of course.
That's my opinion!
Okay, so at any point, if you have a differing opinion, you can leave it in the comments. But if you're like pissed about any of my opinions, you can go start your own YouTube channel. I do want to say at no point in this video will I say that one city is better than all of the rest. I think they're all great. Okay, let's start with the general vibe of each of these cities. So Belgrade, where I live, it's a city that's definitely the most action-packed, has that city that never sleeps vibe to it, the hustle and bustle. Even though it's not that big, if you're staying in the city center, it's easy to walk around anywhere. But despite it being this kind of small, compact city, it still has the feel of a city that's a little bigger and has a lot going on, a lot of places to go, a lot of people to see, a lot of things to do. So I love that about Belgrade. Zagreb, on the other hand, Zagreb is where I like to go to just relax. It's just so pretty. You know, it's definitely got that Central Europe vibe with like the sprawling green lawns that sit in front of beautiful, elegant government buildings, and it has such wide streets. It's great for biking. It's great for just taking a stroll and just admiring the beautiful scenery. You just feel like you're in like a cotton candy pastel daydream. Now, Sarajevo and Skopje, on the other hand, I think are actually the most interesting because they both have that divided city vibe. And I don't mean divided like, you know, there's 2 factions of the city that hate each other and they're, you know, at each other's throats. That's not what I mean. But like historically, they both have one side of the city. This is mostly like in the city center, I should say, where there's the Slavic Orthodox or Catholic side, specifically with Sarajevo. Skopje has Orthodox Macedonians, of course. And then the other side, there's the Muslim influence of the Ottoman Empire, the Islamic diaspora. So with Sarajevo, there's Bosnians who are Muslim, and so you'll see mosques, more Islamic Ottoman architecture. And same thing with Skopje, you will come across lots of Albanians. That is the Muslim population in Macedonia. Skopje is super underrated when it comes to a city that offers that kind of divided city element. Let's touch on Main Square and the city center quickly. They all have a main pedestrian road that kind of climaxes, so sexual, climaxes at a main square. So let's talk about culture and historical sites. By the way, guys, if you are enjoying this video so far, I would greatly appreciate it if you gave this video a like. That might seem like not a big deal, but actually clicking that like button helps YouTube push my videos out more on the homepage, on the sidebar, being suggested. So that really helps me. So basically, all 4 of these cities have amazing historical sites. But I will say this, Sarajevo is just the city for the most dynamic kind of cultural historical experience because there's just so many cross-cultural influences. There's just so much that happened in Sarajevo. there was the 1984 Olympics, and there's tourism sites that you can check out in that regard. It was the site of the murder of Franz Ferdinand, which precipitated many of the events that led to World War I. Lots of relevant World War I history. There's some tours for that. There's the Basčaršija market, the line of demarcation, which separates the two sides of the center. And so you feel like you're in two different cities at times. Like, there's just so much. And again, the other cities have great historical sites as well. Skopje, again, also has that cross-cultural vibe. So there's the Kale Fortress, an amazing underrated fortress of Eastern Europe. It also has lifts that take you up to Vodna Mountain and the Millennial Cross that overlooks the city of Skopje. They also have a Turkish style market like Sarajevo. It's called the Old Bazaar or Bit Bazaar. I met so many Turkish people at that market. Belgrade also has a huge fortress, Kalemegdan. It also has an underground nuclear bunker I still have to visit, as well as a military museum. For the Yugo nostalgists out there like me, there's the Museum of Yugoslav History and House of Flowers, the final resting place of Josip Broz Tito, who I share a birthday with, which is maybe why I think I was him in a past life and why I'm obsessed with the Balkans. This Gedalia Street, it's beautiful cobblestone, like old stone, I should say, Ottoman road. So Belgrade also has cross-cultural influence. Zagreb, I love Gornji Grad, which is the upper town of Zagreb, old cobblestone streets, so lovely. There's a lot of medieval sites around there. Tekalčićeva Street is very beautiful. So let's touch on nightlife. I know we're in the middle of a pandemic, but when you upload a video on YouTube, people will see it for years and years to come later. So I should talk about this. So Belgrade is definitely the undisputed king of nightlife. That is a fact. It is a scientific fact. Everyone will agree with it. Everyone in the Balkans will agree with it. Everyone who's traveled the Balkans will agree with it. Belgrade is also famous for its splavs, which means boathouse. So all these places by night are clubs or restaurants that turn into a club and things like that. And you can't go to Belgrade and not go to a splav. Sarajevo and Zagreb. I liked Sarajevo. It was great for bar hopping, doing like a bar crawl. I did feel though that Sarajevo was like conservative. It just felt conservative. Like I was wearing a little mini dress in May. And I felt like a whore in church because everyone was so conservatively dressed. I think because the city has a heavy influence of people being in the Islamic faith, I missed the memo to wear jeans and a cute little top, apparently. Zagreb, you'll hear this from a lot of people who spend a lot of time in the Balkans, is not the most exciting place for nightlife. A lot of places close by 11 p.m. midnight. This was before the pandemic, so keep that in mind. Skopje is probably my second favorite after Belgrade. There's a lot of bars, kind of compact, small type of places, but there's places for everything. People want to listen to a live band, for people who want to listen to techno, people who want to go to like a grungy rock bar. Like there's something for everyone. Okie dokes, let's talk about prices, food, and dining. I'm gonna start with my two favorites. Actually, let me start by saying this. All of these countries have the typical Balkan staples of burak, cevapcici, I never know which one to call it. Burak, cevapi, gyros. They all have that. So you can find that in any of these countries. Pretty much all these places, you can get really cheap meals. You can get plenty of meals for less than $10 if you're sticking to like a meat meal. My two favorites, which are Zagreb and Skopje. The reason I love Zagreb is because I'm not a big meat eater, basically, because I'm like a pescatarian / vegan vegetarian. It depends on the day. And Zagreb, because it's in Croatia, which touches the Adriatic Sea. Zagreb has just so many seafood options. There's this one restaurant that I always go to and get, what is it called? Frito misto. It's about $20 US, which ain't bad for that amount. I also love Skopje because it has the most amazing. Turkish food and Mediterranean food. Oh my god, oh my god. If you like Mediterranean food, Middle Eastern, Turkish food, Skopje is just a fun city for eating for that. And I'm sure Sarajevo has a lot of great options if you like Mediterranean, Turkish, Middle Eastern type of food as well. I don't know why, I didn't eat that much when I was there. So I can't relay a lot of experiences, but I'm sure it's the same. And Belgrade, you know, I live in Belgrade, I love Belgrade, but when it comes to food, that's one of the areas where I don't love living here. But if you're someone who just likes meat, Belgrade is fine. Last thing that I want to touch on are the day trips that you can take in their proximity to these capital cities. So I have a video, I have a number of videos actually about day trips that I've taken from Belgrade. I'll link to it in the description below. You know, Serbia is great because it's so small. So a lot of day trips that I've taken, it took me 1 to 2 hours to get there. My favorite day trips from Belgrade are in Eastern Serbia. I have an entire video about 7 places you should see in Eastern Serbia, linked in the description below. Zagreb, I think the quickest, easiest, coolest day trip you can take and stay overnight, but you can get there in a few hours, is the Istria region. So that's Rovinj, Pula, where you have the Pula Amphitheater, amazing. There's also Rijeka, I forget which county it's in. It's like, I always forget this. It's like Goranska, Županja, like I never remember it. But Rijeka is also nice. Skopje, of course, I think a lot of people know about Lake Ohrid, which is about 2 to 3 hours away. Matka Canyon is also a great day trip. It's only about 30 minutes away from Skopje. I have a separate video about that I'll link in the description. I'll link to a blog post from one of my favorite bloggers, the Blonde Gypsy. She's seen every place in Macedonia. And finally, there's Sarajevo. And I have a video on my channel called 4 Epic Herzegovina Day Trips from Sarajevo or Mostar. I linked to that in the description. And most of those places in that video, they're about 2 to 3 hours from Sarajevo. I linked to that description of the places that I did make it to because they were top of my list. All in all, the moral of the story is all of these capital cities are great. The Balkans is so beautiful. There's just so much beauty here. So come here, travel safely, quarantine before you come. That's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them below. If you're planning a trip to the Balkans, you can DM me on Instagram. I always respond to messages on Instagram. I might respond late, but I always respond. So I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.